the one secret you need to know on how to check your own pulse. In this video, I'm going to tell you. Now, there are three areas that you can actually check your pulse. The first is the wrist, the second is the brachial artery, and the third is the carotid artery. And the biggest mistake people make is they press too hard. If you squeeze the artery so hard that there's no blood flowing through it anymore, then you don't actually detect a pulse. So the first way to do it would be on the wrist. Now, most people have a hard time finding it on the wrist. It's actually very simple. If you look at your wrist, there is a bone right here and then a soft spot on the thumb side. If you take your two fingers, don't take your thumb, if you take your two fingers and lightly press in that soft area, you will detect a pulse. Now, this artery is pretty small, so sometimes it does take some skill in learning how to find it. The next area would be the brachial area, which is if you make a muscle right there, right below the bicep and the tricep, right in the middle, you take your fingers and you press up against the bone. Now, don't press hard. Most people press too hard and they don't detect a pulse. So if you press real lightly, real flat like that, you will start to detect a pulse. Now, the third area where you can find a pulse is in your neck. Now, some people, you should not do this because pressing on their carotid arteries actually sometimes makes them dizzy, so be careful with this one. How to find this is if you take your fingers like this and you find your throat right there, you're going to go right off the throat, but in front of this muscle. You can see this muscle right here. This is called a sternocleidomastoid muscle. So if you go between the muscle and the throat and you just cross over like this, or you can take your fingers like that, very softly press in between the muscle and the throat, and you will detect the pulse. What you're gonna do is set your timer, like your phone, set it for a minute, and you count how many pulses you feel per minute. And that way you can detect your pulse per minute. That's how you find your pulse.